Let's head to the top.
I
Barabbas?
don't hear the host.
Barabbas, can you share the talk?
Okay, you can do so. Yeah. Well, you know, we have a God. He's always communicating with us. And nowadays it's going a little more different than before. Now, when we communicate to the Lord, then we pray, and we pray in tongues. So the Lord always can understand what we are saying. Um, but there has been a time that the Holy Spirit was not poured out, and people was not able to pray in tongues. It happened in that time that the Lord was speaking to the people by visions and dreams, and this is what I was uh, figure out in the Bible, things about visions and dreams. In 1963, Martin Luther King was saying, "I have a dream." And I will quote this. He's saying, "I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creeds. We hold this truth to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." That's a part of the Declaration of the Independence. I have a dream that one day, on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of the former slaves and the sons of the former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. Well, it's a nice dream, and you know, 5 years later, Martin Luther King was shot, killed by James Earl Ray in Memphis, Tennessee. But the dream lives on, although in many places it's still a dream. In the Bible, we can read a lot about visions and dreams. Who experienced visions in the Bible? What did they mean? And who received the most revelations? According to the Bible, one of the most common ways God uses to communicate His will to humans was through visions. There are vivid operations that are distinct from dreams, although they usually appear during waking, conscious hours. The Bible doesn't seem to indicate that a person can experience visions while dreaming. Visions may involve natural or supernatural settings, and the individual experience this miracle may be either an observer or a participant. In the Old Testament, there were they were considered so important that their absence was a cause of great concern for the ancient Israelites. We read this, for example, in Samuel 3, verse 1.
What book and chapter and verse?
It was 1 Samuel 3, chapter 3. verse 1. Yeah, and child Samuel ministered unto the Lord before Eli, and the word of the Lord was precious in those days. There was no open vision, so God was not talking much again anymore to the people of Israel, because they left His words. They was doing things that they want to do for themselves. Uh, Actually, in that time they needed a new man with new vision and new leader, but there was none. Only the priests was having some authority and was doing the judgment in the people, but it was not going very well in that time. So the Lord didn't tell much to them. And also in Proverbs 29, verse 18, where Solomon is writing, where there is no vision, the people perish, but that he keep the law, happy is he. So that's also something about vision. Some of the great men in the Bible experienced visions and often changed their lives and those of others in a dramatic way. Those who experience visions as a means of God's revealing information to them included Eliphaz, the friend of Job. And we will not read all the verses, but you can find this in Job chapter 4. And then there was Abraham, where God promised him to become a great nation. It was in Genesis 15. And also Jacob was dreaming a dream, and you read it in Genesis 46, where Jacob was encouraged to travel to Egypt to escape the famine, because there was hunger in the country. And it is about the story of Joseph when he was the king in Egypt, and his brothers was already going for the second time to buy food. And when they came back, they told Jacob what was going on, because it was a dramatic changing in their lives. And Jacob didn't know what he had to do at that time. Should he go to Egypt or no? And then in a dream, God came to him and told him that he had to go. And he also promised him over there that he will be a very big nation. In Egypt, told the Lord him, I will make you a big nation. And what can we say about the false prophet, Balaam? Balaam, who was uh, he asked the King Balak of the Amalekites, and he was asking Balaam to curse the people of Israel. And and then God was using Balaam to bless the people of Israel. And God was speaking to Balaam even through the mouth of a donkey. It's not just a dream. He was speaking to Balaam to the Mount of Don't. And yeah, it's a great story. You have to read it. It is in Numbers 22, 23, and 24. It's three capitals, three chapters that is telling the story of that. And then we have the Micah. It was a prophet of the Lord, Micah. In that time, it was probably only one prophet of, of the Lord. It was in the time of Ahab, the king of Israel, and Ahab wanted to go to war, and he wanted to have Josephat with him to be stronger against the king of Syria. And Josephat was, uh, Ahab was uh, searching uh, for the words of the true words of the Lord. Actually, Josephat asked Ahab, "Shall we ask the Lord if we will go or not?" And Ahab then was having 400 prophets, so not just one, but 400 prophets, and they always was saying to him, "Yes, king, you have to go, and you will be have the victory over there, and the Lord will bless you anyway." But Josephat was not satisfied with all these prophets, 400. And then he asked Ahab, "Is there still one prophet of the Lord?" And Ahab was saying to him, "Yes, there is, but he is always prophesies bad about me, so I hate him." Josephat was saying, "Let's listen to his message from the real prophet of the Lord." And first of all, Micah was saying, "Okay, Koning Ahab, you have to go to the war because the Lord will give you the victory." But that was not true, of course. And Ahab, he know this prophet was not telling the truth to him. And then uh, he was telling the real truth to the kings, and he was saying, "I was seeing the whole people of Israel running around in the mountains like a herd with no shepherd." So it was clear, Ahab will not win the battle. So, but still the Lord was giving a vision to Micah about the herd and the shepherds. So, and a very young Samuel the prophet, when he was very young, the Lord came already to him. At the time when God was no longer speaking to the people. And Nathan the prophet, he was told not only that King David's throne will be established forever, but also that David's son, Solomon, will build the temple of God in Jerusalem. The story is in 2 Samuel 7. And there are many more. And there are also examples in the New Testament. where we can read that Peter, James, and John saw the transfiguration of Jesus in a vision and the appearance of Moses and Elijah. And what we think about Stephen just before becoming the first Christian martyr, also was able to miraculously see God's throne with Jesus standing at his right hand. It is in Acts 7, verse 55. And what about Saul? He saw Jesus in person, so that he became blind when he was traveling to Damascus. And what about Ananias? The Lord told him in a dream that he has to go to Saul and to the repentant Saul, and he has to heal him. The story is in Acts 9. And also in Acts we read about a Roman centurion named Cornelius is told to request that Peter come and baptize him. It was the Lord that spoke to him in a dream. Just before Peter was miraculously shown the sheet filled with unclean animals, which we read in Acts 10. The Apostle John had the entire book of Revelation revealed to him through visions. And Paul experienced the, when he was already the apostle, miraculous revelations throughout his life. His first one is seeing a man named Ananias coming to baptize him. It's miraculous that God is having so much communication with his people. And soon after his baptizing, Saul was fleeing to Arabia, where he told the gospel by Jesus himself through what is likely a series of visions. You read something, he is telling about these things um, in Galatians 1, verse 11, 12, and 17 and 18. Later in Paul's ministry, he miraculously see in his mind a man from Macedonia asking him for help. It is in Acts 16, verse 9. Being told to speak boldly in Corinth in chapter 18, verse 9. And informed to leave Jerusalem immediately. He got that message by a dream. It is, you read it in chapter 22, verse 18. That's a nice chapter because this is actually the testimony of Saul from the prophet Paul. He is giving his testimony in that chapter. So these are some examples from the Bible of people addressed by God in a dream. On a much larger scale, God's plan also gives mankind something to dream about. This is actually a very different dream which can become reality. Jesus Christ came to tell us about this plan. By the way, he also got killed by his adversaries but of the dream. God's plan did survive and prospered. It lives on because He, Jesus, rose from the dead, enabling Him to pour out the Holy Spirit, thereby many from the freeing many from the slavery of this world. In type, we see the children of Israel, the descendants of Jacob, being delivered from slavery in Egypt. That's telling us the same story. However, we see something very interesting. On the way to the promised land of freedom, when they came to the border, ready to enter in, Moses sent 12 spies to the promised land. They were just not anybody, but they were the leaders of their tribes. Only two of the 12 stuck to their dream and maintained their vision. 10 did not. All through the Bible, we find this sort of things repeated. And this is why you can see that your dream can be uh, attacked by something that's going on with you. And one of the biggest attackers of the dreams is fear. And that's what happened by the 10 spies who told the children of Israel what what's going on in the land, in the promised land. There are and have been always many dream killers or vision killers. The biggest one of these is fear. We will see what we read about the spies in Numbers 13. Um, we start reading in Numbers 13, verse 32. See the note is a little gone. Yeah, it's there. And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had scattered, searched unto the children of Israel, saying, the land through which we have gone to search it, it's a land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof. And all the people that we saw in it are men of a great stature. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which came of the giants. And we were in our sight as grasshoppers. And so we were in their sight. Another example of how fear makes for bad decisions we find in 2 Chronicles 16, where King Asa, who was mostly good king, motivated by fear, lost his vision and made some bad choices and bad decisions. Let us read this story. In the 6th and 30th year of the reign of Asa, Baasha, king of Israel, came up against Judah and built Ramah. to the intent that he made, let no one go out or come in to Asa, the king of Judah. King Asa was afraid for the king because of the king of Israel. Israel is the 10 tribes next to Judah and Benjamin. But Asa built a city that would isolate Judah so that they could not longer trade. Because of this fear, he is going to make a wrong decision. And we read more. We read verse 2 from 2 Chronicles 16. Then Asa brought out silver and gold of the treasures of the house of the Lord and of the king's house, and sent it to Benadad, the king of Syria, that dwelt at Damascus, saying, there is a league between me and thee, as there was between my father and thy father. Behold, I have sent silver and gold. Go, break the league with Baasa, the king of Israel, that he may depart from me. So he was giving away the treasures of the Lord because of the fear for the king of Israel. He better should pray or ask the prophets in that time. But he didn't. We don't understand why, because the Bible is not writing about it. But he made the wrong decision. And it was also the decision that destroyed the rest of his life. Thus Asa did not ask about the wisdom of God. He made his own decision that lead to many things going wrong. Almost after it. And Benadad hearkened unto Asa and sent the captains of his armies against the cities of Israel. And he destroyed 3 cities, Ilion and Dan and Abel-Maim, and all the destroys and all the store cities of Naphtali. And it came to pass when Baasa heard that he left off building Ramah and let the work cease. Then Asa the king took all of Judah, and they carried away the stones of Ramah and the timber thereof, wherewith Baasa was building, and he built there with Geba and Mizpah. And at that time Hanani the seer came to Asa the king of Judah. So there was a prophet in that time. And when when Asa was making his own decision, the prophet was sent by the Lord. That relied on the king of Syria and not relied on the Lord thy God. Thereof is the host of the king of Syria escaped out of my hand, out of thine hand. Were not the Ethiopians and the Lubims a huge host with very many chariots and horsemen? Yet because thou didst rely on the Lord, he delivered them into thine hand. For the eyes of the Lord run to and flow throughout the whole earth to show himself strong in the behalf of them whose heart is perfect towards him. Herein thou hast done foolish. Therefore, from henceforth thou shalt have wars. Yeah. Then Asa wrote the seer and put him in the prison. for he was enraged with him because of this thing. And Asa oppressed some of the people the same time. And behold, the acts of Asa, and the first and the last, lo, they are written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. And Asa in the 39th year of his reign was diseased by his feet until his disease was exceeding great. Yet his disease he sought not to the Lord, but he was going to the physicians. And Asa slept with his fathers and died on the 40, 40th year of his reign. For this example, we see that after making the wrong decisions, several wrong decisions followed. It's like going offside the hill, going more and more down. When when you make a wrong decision and you don't repent, you are sliding away further, further, further. We must always remain alert and humble ourselves before God so that He can rebuild us. King Asa did not. He put the messenger of God in the prison, oppressed those who would listen to God. At the end of his life, we see that he was completely lost contact with his Creator. Instead of praying, he's going to the doctors. Generally, we know from the many testimonies that that we can hear nowadays that you can be healed by the Lord. So it's not meaning to say you should never ask the doctor. That's also not the right way. But you still can be healed by praying. And we see that a lot of times, in a lot of testimonies. Almost everyone who is giving his testimony, he can also testify about healings. Almost everyone. Very nice. There are many other examples in the Bible and also in our life experience, proving the same thing. So, there has always been only a very small percentage of the people being able to keep the vision alive and inspiring others to do the same. And while I'm saying this, I'm realizing that this is exactly what we're doing to each other in the Revival Fellowship, encouraging each other, telling our testimonies, and giving new, inspiring visions to each other. Also, in the New Testament, we find some examples. For example, in John 13, verse 1, where Jesus is um, encouraging on us to say, let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me. And whither I go, ye go, and the way ye know. Thomas said unto him, Lord, we know not whither thou goest, and how can we know the way? And Jesus said unto him, have I been so long time with you, and you hast, and yet hast thou not known me, Philip? Okay, how long is the Lord already with us, and do we know him really? We have to. We also have the story of Lazarus in the New Testament. When he was raised from the dead, the reaction of the Pharisees was one of fear. John 11, verse 47 up to 40, up to verse 52. Um, then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council and said, "What do we? For this man doeth many miracles. If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him, and the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation." And one of them, named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, he said unto them, "Ye know nothing at all, nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. And this spake he not of himself, but being the high priest of that year, he prophesied that Jesus should die for the nation, and not for the nation only, but that also he should gather together in one of the children of God that was shattered abroad. And then verse 53, then from that day forth they took counsel together for to put him to death. Their solution, let's kill him, that was what fear is doing to a person. Fear let him make the wrong decision. So let never fear become over you. It's not needed. We don't need to fear anything. Not in this world. When you hear about wars, when you hear about earthquakes, when you hear about volcanic eruptions or whatever disasters or typhoons, you don't fear because we have the Lord on our side. And what is the purpose of the visions? In the Bible we find visions serving a variety of purposes. They can convey what will happen in the future, which is prophecy, or teach spiritual truth. They can be used to strengthen a believer during a trial, reveal events that would otherwise be unknown, or reveal God's majesty. They can confirm punishment for sin, inform someone to do God's will, or even provide encouragement and hope. Lastly, they can confirm a blessing of promise or reveal God's plan for man. And it's a risky thing for any person to claim that God has given him the vision when in reality he has not done so. Yeah, it's true. Sometimes I'm wondering what happened to the 400 prophets of the King Ahab, which prophets prophesied in the name of the Lord, and they didn't know the Lord at all because they were prophets from the idols. Um, those in the Bible who lied about receiving messages from the Lord, regardless of the means, were put to death in the Old Testament. You read something in Deuteronomy 13, verse 1, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Deuteronomy 13. If there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and give it thee a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder came to pass whereof he spoke unto thee, saying, Let us go after other gods, which thou hast not known, and let us serve them. Thou shalt not hearken unto the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for the Lord your God profit you, that know whether ye love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. Ye shall walk after the Lord your God, and fear him, and keep his commandments, and obey his voice, and ye shall serve him, and cleave unto him. And that prophet, or that dreamer of dreams, shall be put to death, because he had spoken to turn you away from the Lord your God, which brought you out of the land of Egypt, and redeemed you out of the house of bondage, to thrust thee out of the way which the Lord thy God commanded thee to walk in. So shalt thou put the evil away from the midst of thee. It's very hard to do so, but that's what the Lord asks us to do. False prophets should be removed from the midst of us. Also, you see something in Jeremiah 23. Behold, I will send for many fishers, said the Lord, and they shall fish them. And after will I send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill, and out of the holes of the rocks. Today, today, living in fear today is reality for many because of the COVID-19. Looking themselves away, domestic violence increasing as predicted, fear has torment, and torment triggers the fight or flight reaction. In 1 John 4, verse 18, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear, because of fear hath torment. He that feareth is not perfect, made perfect in love. Fear is not for us. Let's be some of the few who kept the vision, like Joshua and Caleb did. Even when there was giants in the country, they still believed that God is more strong than everyone else, and He will give always what He is promising. So Joshua and Caleb was the only two who bring the right vision to the tribes of Israel. Understand the direction and inspire others to enter the promised land. That's what they did. We have a mission to fulfill, and it cannot guide it by fear. Let's listen to the Lord as He encourages us in John 14. He really encourages us to do what we and to wait for. Later on, He was giving His Holy Spirit to us, which filled us up, every one of us. And now we are strong in Him. So I have a dream that surely will come true. Once we were singing already in the choruses tonight that we will walk in streets of solid gold. Well, that's my dream, and the splendor of the city is written, described in Revelation. So, what is your dream? I want to give back to the host.
That's all.
I still can't understand what you say.